Good morning, everyone. It's Fran at Village Dry Goods once again. It's block 12. I'm kind of sad because this really is our final week, except for next week when we get to have a little bonus, but we'll talk about that one later. So this week we are doing the pineapple block, and I've got a fun new ruler to introduce some of you to, so I hope you enjoy it. And there is the pineapple block in our fun little quilt. So come on and let's head back to the table and we'll get you going on this. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all ready for this. We are starting on week 12. It's our fun little pineapple block that you've all been excited to do. So let's go ahead and get started. My preference for this, and you'll see why as we go along, is the Creative Grids pineapple trim tool. And this one is for the mini size. So here's some fun directions for it that I've printed off. But we're going to go through each and every one of these steps, so let's get started. You do have an option on here, so if you would like to, you may also paper piece this fun pineapple block. Miss Renee has done the directions for it on here, so the pattern that's here is exactly the size that you need to do your paper piecing to. First thing we're going to do is we are going to cut our center. Now when you're using the ruler, this needs to be cut to the exact size, and that size is a 1.5 inch square. So I'm going to cut my 1.5 inch red square, and then I am going to cut 4 1.5 cream inch squares, and I'm going to sew each of these on. Now when you sew them on, press them always on this whole pineapple block towards the piece that you have just sewn on. So I'm pressing towards my cream. You're going to lay each piece on, and I found it helpful to lay it on and sew it from the flat end in as many times as I could, pressing out towards that. The next one would be here, pressed out, and the next one here and pressed out. So when I have all of those sewn on, and please don't get excited and think that at the end I'm going to serve you breakfast, because I'm not. My paper plates are just my props. So when I have all of those sewn on like this, here is what this looks like with everything pressed out. Now we're going to get to start the fun part. We're going to start taking our ruler and we're going to start trimming. Didn't want you to see that yet. On your ruler, it is marked for round 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Well, what happens to my odd ones? You're going to see that in a minute. But we're going to take our block and we're going to center our center right on to round 1. You see how that white line fits right inside my little red square. Now we're going to trim. I'm going to trim one side. And you are going to need to move your ruler around for each side on this. So now I would move my ruler to the other side, rotate my little mat, and I'm going to cut the second. Rotate my mat, line it up, cut the third, and cut the fourth. When you are all finished trimming that up, there's your very first part. We're going to continue on with that through this whole thing. So your next round that you would be sewing on is your yellow pieces. Now, for the yellow, I'm on round 1 and round 2. I am going to come to the opposite end and I'm going to find that round 2. I'm going to center up. Now look what fun thing just happened. I get to cut 2 sides at once. So I'm going to center that. I will then cut this side off, rotate my mat, rotate my block, do the other 2 sides. So as I have those 2 sides now trimmed off, look how cute we're becoming. Okay, now it's going to start to look a little bit funny in a little ways. You see how this block now, I'm not going edge to edge like I have been before. That's okay, you have plenty to trim away. This fun little ruler oversizes slightly and gives us enough that we're always going to have our 1/4 inch seam. Now, what happened to those odd sizes? Well, look at this. at the opposite end of my ruler, do you see this? It says you're going to do, this is your 45 angle trim for rounds 3, 5, 7, and 9. So I am going to place my ruler with my line right here on this gold piece that I've done. Now can you see these fun lines that are also here on my ruler? I'm going to use those registration marks to make sure I'm keeping all of my sides nice and even. So I'm going to take that ruler, I'm going to line up my line here on my last round. I'm going to line up these, but even more important, see this center line coming right through? I want that lined up at the tip of my red center here and here. So now I'm going to cut this side. You do have to rotate all of these sides as you're doing your block here cutting. I'm going to again line up all of my registration marks and I'm going to cut. I'm going to continue and I'm going to do all 4 sides. And I saved this one so that you can see a little bit better. So I have trimmed up 3 of my sides. Now I'm going to, this is my final side. See how I've still got those lines right there on the edge of my last row? I'm here on my little triangle and my centers are right here. I'm now going to trim off that last side and then I would have that complete block. Now let's go with our next round. Here we go. Now we get to have our blue color in here. Again, I'm on row 1, 2, 3, and 4 rounds. So I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to find that round 4, center it up in my block, center red square right there. And now I'm going to trim 2 sides, 1, and I moved my ruler, so let's line ourselves back up. Can you see that my lines are still in my center? I would not have normally moved that, so I would have cut both sides, rotate my block around, center myself back up, and cut my next 2 sides. Really, this is what you're doing the whole time. When you finish with that, look how stinking cute our little block is becoming. Now, the farther out you go, the more you're going to have hanging out here on the sides. But trust me, it's okay. You've got plenty. I try and kind of keep this piece centered in there as much as I can, but we're trimming off quite a bit of this. So I'm on round 1, 2, 3, 4, and row 5. Round 5. So round 5 again is an odd number. I'm going to bring this end down, and I can't emphasize this enough. I should have brought the block that I thought I could talk on the phone and trim at the same time. No, pay attention, because this side needs to go in the right spot. Here's what I did. Oh, I think I know what I'm doing, and I trimmed this off and went, oh, something bad happened. So on your odd numbers, make sure that this triangle is in your triangle on your line. You're centered up here, then you're good to go. So as you have that one all trimmed up, it looks like this. We're making a pineapple block, guys, and we're doing it the easy way. Now, if you're paper piecing these, you're doing exactly the same thing. You just have to make sure that your angles are going in the right direction. Look how funky our green one now looks. But it's okay. We've got this in here, but we still have plenty to trim. There's our green one, all trimmed up. And you're going to continue on and on and on with all of our pieces. Look at that as it's building out. Do you notice how some of my colors in here are a little different fabrics? Well, I did these in every single round for you so you could see what they look like, and I didn't have enough of all the fabrics, so we got a little creative. Oh, look how fun. Look what that little pink one does out there. It adds such a fun spark of color. And here we are all trimmed up. We're almost there, guys. Here's our cream one. And here's our cream all trimmed up. Here's our last colored piece that we're going to put on. Now this one's kind of fun because you're going to do a little something different on this last colored round. We are going to be trimming this last one out here to 3/4 of an inch. Now what you're going to do on that, this is 3/4 of an inch from this white line to your edge. You're going to line that white line up just like so. Let me show you on the one that's not trimmed. We're going to line it up right here. And we're going to do that on all 4 sides, and you'll see why we're doing that in just 1 second. So I'm going to trim all 4 sides of that last round out there, and it's going to look like this as I have it trimmed. Now, here's why we did that. Our final one, you have 2 squares that you have cut at 3 inches. We're going to take those squares, they're going to be cut once diagonally, and we're going to use those 4 as our corners. Now I can use my pineapple trim tool to trim this up. You're going to put that edge right there. Now if I choose to use this, I am going to have to turn it 1 time to finish trimming this, which is okay. So now I would just come along here and trim, 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 and then I'm going to have to come over to here because I don't really have enough ruler to trim my final side, and I would trim those 2. Or you can just use your 6.5 inch ruler and trim the whole thing without rotating any of it. And because these are both Creative Grids rulers, my markings are all the same on all of them, so I don't have to worry about, is this one a little different size than my other? I could just now trim the whole thing. Trim, rotate, trim, rotate, trim, rotate. So when I have finished with this block, it's going to look, and then once you've finished and you've trimmed it up to your 6.5 inches, you're going to put your flying geese on it the same way that we've done all along, and look at how stinking cute our block is. There is our week number 12. Now, as promised, I said there would be a little bonus, so you're going to see another one coming right up at you as well.